We're behind getting the tech out today. We better get started or we're going to be in a real pickle.
It's not like it's that big of a deal.
You got to stop jerking me around.
Yeah, I guess this is our bread and butter. Another show ruined at birth. Oh, that should have been... I think that's my death metal name is Ruined at Birth. Or something along those lines. Anyway, we gotta get down to business with the show because it's late, and there's also a very hungry wolf out there that's waiting. I'm supposed to be feeding it like right now, but I was like, Umbra, I'll feed you after the tech. So we're gonna feed the dog after the tech. Maybe you guys would like to come with me. We'll do like a Mr. Rogers thing where we never mind. IBM's Watson has published a cookbook. There are no dog recipes in this cookbook. But IBM's Watson, what they were trying to do, they were trying to build an idea engine, an idea generating tool. And they wanted to build that idea generating tool with something that, we all like and can relate to. So they decided to allow IBM's Watson to work together with some culinary experts. And so they got together with the Institute of Culinary Education and created this little idea generating thing for food. And then they made a cookbook. So, yeah, it's interesting, I guess. You want to try anything? It's weird because, it uses science as well as, knowledge from several different chefs and experts. And then it puts together things that you would not normally think, that would go together, like the Turkish bruschetta. So that's, they use Japanese eggplants and then some sumac and then dry oregano, paprika, Parmesan, and, yeah. Is anyone gonna even care about these ingredients and stuff? Is this interesting?
We need to tweet Alton Brown and get him as a guest because I think Alton Brown is just geeky enough that we actually might be able to get him as a guest and then ask him about this because I'm sure that he would know the answer to this and he could regale us with stories about how this and that and the other goes on. He was when I was reading this, it reminded me of he talked about how certain types of cuisine, like I think Indian cuisine. They're really good at, the really good dishes sort of exercise all the elements of your palate equally, but to a good effect. So it's not just like a mishmash. It's like if you do that with colors, it ends up just being a horrible gray mess. But when you do that with flavors, if you do it right, it's actually amazing. And so not all like culinary stuff is like that. Like, Italian dishes or dishes that are thought of as Italian or American dishes typically only do like 2 or 3 parts of your palate, but certain cultures, their food, it's all of your palate without being, an assault on all of your senses.
Yeah, speaking of assault, I remember when I moved out of the South, I had a hard time tasting things because I was so used to tons of extra sugar and salt. It was weird. Like, they put so much sugar and stuff. Tennessee, I think, might be the worst. Like, Kentucky's had some pretty freaking sweet desserts, but Tennessee, man, you guys in Tennessee, how can you taste your food with that much sugar in the cake? There's more sugar than there is flour. It's almost crunchy. Anyway, enough of that rant. Alton Brown's kind of difficult to track down. We'd have to probably buy an altimeter to get him on the show and find out where you get it.
They use. I can definitely remember a joke from Lewis Black where he's like, "Oh, we'll just use bacon grease," and it's like, "No, we can't use bacon grease. It's too lean, and we've got to use fat."
Oh, what's that from? That's from that guy in New York. We're already off on a terrible tangent. That's from that guy in New York who's like 110 years old, and the only thing he eats is bread fried in fat back because bacon was too lean, and take him to a doctor. Doctors would be like, "Yeah, exactly." So I think his point was like, we don't have any idea. Just we all read these silly health journals and drink 90 glasses of water a day and pee our brains out, and no one knows anything. But maybe there is. I'm sure there is some science out there, but whatever.
It's got electrolytes.
What are those? It means I don't know. Whatever you pee on becomes electrical. Boogie woogie. YouTube has confirmed plans for their ad-free subscription-based service, so they're going to allow you guys out there in internet world land to pay monthly, and then you're not going to have any ads. So essentially, you're going to get the ad block experience, but now, on top of that, you're going to get to pay. So, hey, if you guys want to give YouTube some money, the content creators will get 55% of that. So if you pay the money and you only watch our videos, we're going to get 55% of whatever you're giving out to YouTube, and the rest is going to go to cover YouTube's extremely expensive servers and their infrastructure and their staff that breaks things on a daily basis Sorry, guys at YouTube. I know it's stressful there, and there's probably a couple of guys on staff that are higher up than you. They really don't have any idea how things should be, and they're terrible coders, but they're higher than you because of nepotism or something like that. I'm really sorry, guys. So don't hate me. I'm just messing with you guys when I say that the back end is always like, what on earth are they doing? So yeah. How do you guys feel about that? I'm curious to know. They're trying to right now. They're really trying to do anything they can to pay their bills because it's really expensive to run a service like these and to constantly be streaming videos and uploading videos. I can't even imagine how they break even. Everyone's been screaming and yelling about their them coming and saying like, hey, if you guys do pre-roll ads that are outside of YouTube, we need a cut of that. I can totally understand where they're coming from because they're dying. They've got no. I mean, they're barely paying their bills if at all. So I don't agree with what they're doing, but there's got to be a different way to do it. But I don't know.
We have a question, and that is, if you're a tech support member, would you like a private site that you could go to download MP3s and movies, like MP3s and movie uploads, like 1080p uploads, not necessarily streaming, but
it's like a download server.
The current episodes. Yeah, it's still gonna be on YouTube, but if you're tech support, it's like, oh yeah, you can go download the files.
I mean, I've always felt weird about giving people that are on tech support something exclusive. I mean, it is nice to get something for what you're paying for, but really, there's some people there who just can't afford tech support. So it's nice when the people who can afford tech support, can afford tech support. Like, I don't know, take up the slack. It's one of those type of things where I don't want people who are completely dead broke who want access to the stuff to not have it. I guess they'll have it on YouTube, but just work harder, get a better job. I don't know. Yeah, 215. How about this? So the Patriot Act will be up for vote, I think June 1st or something like that, right in the beginning of June. And it's because of the sunset clause. You know, they put that in there because when they originally made the Patriot Act, they're like, well, guys, this is awful. We've got to put something in there that at least says that in a few years it's going to come back up and different parts of it are going to be talked about and vote upon again. So just call your Congress people. You can go down here, this website. It's fight215.org. Please, guys, I already called. Go ahead and call, send an email, whatever. You know, just call and tell them what you think. If it matters. If you're
confused about that, you should totally watch the John Oliver segment on this exact thing. It's more than just that, but it starts out talking about Section 215.
Yeah, should we go ahead and bring that up right now? Because have you seen the time?
Uh-oh. It's Rant 30, and it's gonna be bad.
Yeah, it's Rant 30. Now, let's just go ahead and put this on the screen. I am ranting at the American people and also our audience. This is going to be slightly directed at you guys. Now, so John Oliver took to the streets and started asking people what they thought of Edward Snowden. Most people didn't know who he was. Some people thought he was in charge of WikiLeaks. And other people thought that he was a traitor, that he had compromised our security. They basically knew a few talking points that they'd heard on the radio or heard on the news or something. And, they thought that Edward Snowden kind of was the bad guy. And a lot of people really didn't have any problem with the government being able to have access to their phone records and their emails and that sort of thing. But when John Oliver put it in the terms of their junk, to quote Edward Snowden, suddenly it mattered to them. They're like, wait a minute, they can see my junk? Well, no, though there should be like that should be illegal, and they shouldn't be allowed to do that. So it's like you take the same argument, like they can read your emails, they can read the love letter, they can read your muffin recipe you sent to your mom last night. Nobody really cared. No one gave a shit. And as soon as they said they can see your naked body, everyone freaked out. So that's really scary. Now here's the really scary part. The scariest part is we had to, come down to that level for people to see the right of this, for people to understand it. We should not have to come down to that level because the audience, you guys, you're the evangelists. You guys are the smart ones. You're the enlightened ones. You're hanging out, on the internet. You're going to the different tech channels. You know what's up. You know who these people are. You know what the laws are. You should be talking about it. And when it comes up, here's the thing. A lot of times it'll come up and you'll mention something and you can see them already looking at you like, this does not match popular thought. This does not match what I heard on CNN. You must be a whack job conspiracy theorist, basement dwelling nerd who types on, well, they don't know what 4chan is, but Yeah. You hang out with that guy named 4chan, I bet. So
The hacker known as 4chan.
yeah, a lot of times when it gets to that point, you guys just kind of leave it alone and walk away because you know that it's you've already been labeled. You're the guy with the fanny pack and the hat brim that's too low, who walks around talking about, man, they're everywhere. They're gonna get us, man. You need to punch them in the face with some knowledge, because first off, they don't deserve their freedoms if they're not gonna stand up and fight for them. But they need you guys to help them understand they're stupid. People are stupid. We need a shirt that just says "Stupid people are stupid," and you guys can wear it and be like, "Does this apply to you?" Well, I'm here to help. At least right now they're only ignorant. Many of them are stupid, but you can't really help when they're too stupid. But if they're just ignorant, please educate them. So you can even send them here. This is a wonderful website. Send your grandmother to this website so that she can know if anyone is looking at her penis. Hold on a minute. What state do you live in? Yeah. But anyway, it goes through all the different laws and breaks it down based upon your junk. I guess it would also... Yeah, never mind. Go ahead.
This does not bode well for the future of society when we have to reduce and explain what's going on in these terms. Something has gone horribly wrong. Something has gone I mean, in a historical context in America, freedom of the press is really important. It's in our Constitution, and it's like at the top, maybe not exactly the top, but it's in the top.
It's up there with freedom of speech.
So how do we get here? I don't even. There's nothing really meaningful that I can contribute to the conversation except to say that John Oliver, he did a good job, and I thought that it was actually reasonably balanced because he asked Snowden some tough questions. I do think that one of the few times that I have, Snowden is a very stoic, a very reserved, unemotional person. I aspire to be that stoic. I really, when you're watching the interview with him, you can see sort of flashes of emotion when John Oliver is showing him, hey, no one has any idea on the ground. And you could really tell that he wasn't really sure how that interview was going to go. But you could definitely see, not like rage or anything, but, genuine surprise. And it was something that I had not seen in any of the other interviews with Snowden. I think that John Oliver was like, let me break it down for you. Where you went wrong is that, this is too complex. And admittedly, what he's saying has come down a long way. And so John Oliver just kept going. And I think that that's really good. And I think that, certainly John Oliver is shaping the conversation about these kinds of things, because the situation with the FCC, which we will talk about in a bit, I don't think would be what it is if he hadn't done his, we're leaving the internet. It's like leaving a baby with a dingo. I mean, if he had not put it in those terms, I don't think that we would be, having that conversation. And so with the Section 215, with this conversation, if everybody continues to talk about it, then maybe we've got a shot at having Section 215 not renewed, because, like he said, no one cares about foreign surveillance. It's domestic surveillance that's the problem.
So I guess the quick TLDR for all that, guys, is that you are the evangelist. Don't let anybody tell you you're a whack job or a tinfoil hat wearer. And it is your job to help ensure the future freedom of the internet, because you are the ones who are in the know, and the ignorant people need to know. All right, get out there and do your job. That's pep talks over, and game hoof, however they do it in sports. All right, the DEA has been sued over the bulk collection of America's phone records. Now, here's what's really interesting about this. Apparently, the DEA has been doing this for a long time, longer than even our current, NSA stuff. And the NSA used it as a template. The DEA says that they're no longer doing it, but it looks like they were doing almost the same sort of thing. Like recording phone calls and monitoring who you talk to. And I want to reiterate this. I'm not going to get too deep into this. Oh my God, another agency is listening to everything we do. Well, yeah, the FBI, the DEA, pretty soon it's going to be like the Department of, Food and Drugs, to make sure that you're not eating anything healthy. You better be eating stuff that has chemicals that we subsidized, or else we're going to come to your house and, shove Oreos down your throat until you can't stand up. You like that? Some people are into that. I don't know. It's a feeder fetish, I think.
It's the disturbing thing here is not even the bulk collection of records. It is circumventing transparency, because the dangerous thing is not really like with the bulk collection of records. Even if you don't care, even if that is the best way to address the situation, the lack of transparency combined with that is the huge problem. You cannot have a democracy where the government is operating, or agents of the government, I should say, are operating in a way that is not only not transparent to anybody, but where they're actually creating sort of plausible deniability as to, how they gathered the evidence. Like, one of the popular strategies is parallel construction, and apparently, it's like, oh, we just happened to pull over this guy in a completely random thing, and then we searched his car and we found all this stuff, which has happened and has been documented to happen. And the reality was that through one of these bulk collection things or some sort of other trawling that's basically highly illegal, they're not willing to admit that that's how the evidence was gathered. And so they need to construct some sort of plausible theory as to how the evidence actually came about. And you don't have a functional government at that point, because even if the agents of the government have the best of intentions in that situation, the mechanism in place that can operate without sort of being exposed to the sunlight, without being transparent, it will be abused sooner or later. I mean, this generation might not abuse it, but the next generation will take it a little further and a little further and a little further, and it'll be impossible for the citizenry to really know what's going on, and that's the problem.
Let's lighten up a little bit. I probably have more than I could say about the DEA thing, but no. let's have a little fun for just a minute. Google's driverless cars. One of the biggest problems is cows, potholes, stuff like that. So they're trying to develop algorithms to help them avoid cows. And that's a very basic way to say, hey, there's stuff in the road. We need to figure out if this stuff is going to move or if it's going to sit there for a while. Because right now it's a car. It's not a person. It can't tell if it's a boulder or if it's a herd of cattle or a head of cattle. What would it be? A herd, head? I don't know.
A murder of cattle.
A murder of cattle. That's my death metal band name, I think. Murder of cattle. And everything's going to be my death metal band name today. So anyway, yeah. Once they get that figured out, then we'll have something very usable. But it's interesting because they put a patent on this. This is the patent. Take a look at that. Car, cow, car sensing cow, car knows to stop, waits for a given amount of time, and then after it's waited for a little while, it's like, oh, well, this must not be a cow because it's been there for more than 5 minutes. I better plot a course around this. I wonder if they're trying to figure out a way that there can be some human input, like Google, that's a damn cow, go around it. If someone's sitting in the back seat and the car's like, must wait 7 minutes to see if object moves. Like, it's a cow, go around it. But then you're going to have people that abuse it. You're going to be on the side of the cliff, and the guy's going to be like, it's a cow, when it's really something that's not a cow, like a boulder, and then they're going to drive into a wall. I don't know. That's not going to happen either.
I'm sorry, Dave. Yeah. I'm afraid I can't moo that.
I quit. I'm leaving right now. Oh, God, there's not enough alcohol in the house for that kind of joke. All right. Hey, guess what? Let's look at our store. We've got some new items. And this shirt of the month is doing really well. Surprise, surprise. So this is the introduction to our penguin mascot. He's got the Tech Syndicate lapel thing, whatever, lapel pin. So that's on there. So anyway, this is the introduction. Now this is going to be an extremely limited edition, this month only, not coming back. Shirt. It might come back. If it does come back, it'll be like a reunion in like 2 or 3 years or something. But this will be the original. Now, the official Linux logo is going to be coming out in a month or so. But this is going to be the super rare limited edition one. So I don't know. I think it's cool. We had 2 different ones, and I really wanted to use both logos, and I'm like, well, this one looks more iconic, but this one looks more like, yeah, he just swaggered into a room. So this is the one where I felt like he looks like, yeah, I just swaggered into a room, and what's up? Let's get down to business and start doing stuff. So there it is. Anyway, we also have the new Mayflower Electronics amp with our logo on top, and it comes with a T-shirt that has a schematic right there, and then on the back, Mayflower Electronics. So go over and check out the store. Lots of fun stuff going on there, and we do have some surprises coming up very soon. One of the reasons why there haven't been a lot of videos. The other one's just move and all kinds of other things going on. But been in talks with some different people to get some bigger products. So I'm looking to get stuff that I think is quality, and then let you guys, pick it up if you want to get some. I make things that I want, much like I guess Apple used to do. Now they make things that lock you into gardens. All right, speaking of Apple, Wendell, this cnnic root that's been left in the iOS. So this came from the whole Chinese thing, right? Where they had to allow the Chinese access to their devices, but it looks like they've left it in there. I'll let you get into this. Maybe I'm not understanding it.
It's slightly weirder than that. So there's SSL encrypted websites depend on a consortium of trusted companies that issue that sign and issue certificates for encryption. And so when you go to a website and it's got the little lock in the corner for encryption, there's it's indicative of a sort of trust relationship between this consortium of companies and the small company that's running the website, saying, okay, yes, this is legit. This company has requested this access. Theoretically, when Google has like the security lock and with the encryption, only Google is able to get an encryption certificate for google.com, which helps prevent man-in-the-middle attacks. Because if you don't have encryption, on your local area network or your business network, they could just set up a business server that says, I'm google.com. And because that server is closer to you and perhaps configured in local DNS, then you're going to get the company's version of google.com as opposed to the real one. And if you're really sophisticated, you can just pass through the traffic, keep an eye on it. It's unencrypted. There's a whole bunch of different ways that it's real bad news. And so with the encryption certificate, the man-in-the-middle stuff becomes more difficult to do. You still see it inside corporations, because in corporations you can have a trusted entity that's put there by the company, and that entity can sign certificates and create certificates for google.com. But in this case, this is a Chinese company that's trusted, that's sort of in the public trust. And so they've been caught issuing certificates for Google and some other companies. And so Google has immediately said, okay, we no longer trust certificates issued by this company in a consortium of companies that issue these certificates. We'll trust other companies, but we're not going to trust that one because they've been issuing certificates for companies that they should not be. And this is one way that somebody in China or whoever got these certificates can stand up a fake google.com website and even a fake google.com website with encryption. And it would show up, with the lock because it's trusted. And so a lot of companies, Google, Mozilla, and some others, made it so that company was not trusted. But Apple opted not to do that. And so certificates issued by that company will still be trusted on Apple devices. And so that's not a good situation, to say the least. You guys, a couple weeks ago, we reported on the Great Firewall of China, how there's a project on GitHub that's for circumventing the Great Firewall of China. And so they used unencrypted traffic to Baidu, a Chinese search engine, and rewrote some stuff in there. So anyone using that would unknowingly and unwittingly denial of service that particular project on GitHub. Well, if GitHub moves to 100% encrypted everything, SSL, that type of attack won't work anymore. But if their domain registrar, or this, not domain registrar, but if the certificate authority is issuing these fake certificates, then people's computers and their computers trust that certificate authority, then their computers will happily just do whatever. And so this same type of attack that GitHub endured would still work even if you have encryption turned on, because they're able to do the man-in-the-middle thing. And that's probably what their long-term plan is. And that's very bad for people that want to browse securely in China, because now you'll have to actually look at the SSL certificate and see, oh, should I trust this SSL certificate? Was it issued by an American certificate authority, or what's going on here?
All right, speaking of companies that we should never, ever trust, Facebook. So an Irish web developer noticed something a little bit strange while he was on Facebook. He noticed that as he was typing, whatever, his thoughts were being recorded to Facebook servers even when he deleted them. So they are recording everything you do, even if you go in there and just type something and you don't send it, they know what you typed. It's self-censorship, and they can glean pretty interesting insights. I mean, let's think about it. If you just had a terrible breakup and you sit there and you keep typing stuff and erasing it, sometimes you'll type a wall of text. Why would you do this to me? I remember the time that this happened. There's some really valuable marketing stuff that can be derived from that, because if you're typing to your ex that you were with for a year, you're typing about all the good times, they'll know about the time that you went and saw this movie. They'll know, oh, he really likes these type of movies. They hit home with him, they resonate with him, and they produce emotional responses. They'll know that you really like these certain restaurants. They'll know that you like walks on the beach. See? You can glean a lot from stuff that's... And then at the end, you're like, no, I'm not going to send it. And you just delete it because, you know, this is the 7th email you've sent her today. Well, 7th message on Facebook you've sent her today, and it's getting a little weird. And you're getting sick of seeing pictures of her with the guy that she cheated on you with. So, yeah, it's just a bad situation. And Facebook makes it worse by recording all those thoughts that they shouldn't have access to. But they do it, and now we know about it.
The irony is that our website on the forum does exactly the same thing. The reason we do it is so that if you're posting a message and you click off to go look at something else, it's still there when you come back. Actually, it stays down there at the bottom. Or if you switch devices, it's still there. We don't do anything with it. We just
none of that stuff comes to us. It's just with it's just connected to them and their session.
Well, it's still on the server. Yeah. So like if you log in from a different device, it'll still be there. So we totally do that too. But yeah, we don't actually do anything with it. Whereas Facebook probably has a team of 3 PhDs that are analyzing their data, because why not?
I like the bottom of this. Also noteworthy, 1984 by George Orwell, and then a few other articles. Yeah,
so
that's a pretty good book.
This maybe is something to be aware of, but it may also be just some blogger guy that's like, hey, look what I found. And it may not be a thing, because it could totally be some programmer inside Facebook was like, hey, I'm going to do this thing. So that if you accidentally navigate away on a different page or you go to a different computer, you still have whatever you typed in. Because that seems like a nice feature.
Should I cut this bit then?
No, I think that it's fun to have it both ways.
No, they're harvesting this stuff. It's Facebook. Come on.
They might be harvesting it. They probably do have a team of 3 PhDs that are analyzing it.
Why
There's commercial value in it.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Why wouldn't they harvest it? That's like, there's a pile of money laying there. Leave that alone. That's blood money. No, it's still a pile of money. And this is Facebook. They got the fucking blood is dripping off their fangs. They're looking at it like, oh God, look at it. Of course they harvest it. And none of this is true. We don't know of any of these things for sure. This is all just hearsay at this point.
You can run. Everybody go to Facebook and put in diet pills, but don't post that, and then see if you start getting diet pills ads on Facebook. And then you got your answer. I guarantee you, if you do that on our forum, you're not going to see ads for diet pills unless you're doing something else too.
I never take diet pills. I always go for the full pill. How about Google buying Twitter? How would you like that? That would be different, I suppose. I don't know how to feel about this.
I don't understand how Twitter has value. Like it's got a market cap and a value. You know, shares of stock are comparable to Microsoft. And it's like,
how?
What? It's
they got a bunch of users. Well, they've got a ton of users. If they decided to exploit their users, yeah, sure, that'd be worth a ton of money. And maybe they could start harvesting the data, especially the stuff that you're not even going to post. They could just start harvesting that, you know, your self-censorship. But
turns out building a micro-blogging platform is not really that hard. The hard part is scaling it. So it turns out that, you know, Google could probably sneeze out a micro-blogging platform tomorrow. And honestly,
no one would use it.
Characters kind of sucks. They really need to move that up to about 200 or 300 characters. I mean, come on.
I don't know. I think it's just enough for the people who enjoy that stuff. So I don't know. I always find myself needing to go to Twit longer or Tweet longer or whatever it's called. There's that website that's really nice. It allows you to write longer tweets. I don't know. I have absolutely no thoughts of what would happen if Google owned Twitter. Except the fact that Google would finally have a social network that people actually cared about.
Shots fired. Taser dropped.
I think Google Plus is the best platform. Just no one uses it. I think it's the most functional platform. I don't know. I don't like any of them. Let's talk about rockets. The dread Bezos rocket. The dread pirate Bezos has a rocket ship. We've only just got pirate ships. He's got rocket. Never mind. So Jeff Bezos, since 2000, he has a company called Blue Origin. They make rocket ships, sort of like, SpaceX or whatever. And they finally just kind of came out and were like, hey, we're going to launch this rocket. It's going to be one of those cool rockets that can launch and then re-land, and like the booster gear and all that stuff will drop away, and it will come back and vertically land at their launch site in Texas. So I don't know. I guess the next step is that we're going to start seeing Amazon platforms just above the earth, and whenever you order something, it's going to be dropped to your house through parachute rocket ship robot drone thing that they're still trying to get approved by
what was
somebody.
the game that you would play where you hit a button and there ends up being like just a rocket carcass that like craters outside? It's like, oh, I need an airdrop or whatever. And it's not like crates or anything. It's like a rocket impales the earth, sticks out of the earth diagonally, and then there's supplies in the rocket. It's going to be like that, except it's Amazon. And that new like one-touch ordering thing where you have a button and you Velcro it or whatever, and you tap that, and then whenever you tap that, it orders whatever the thing is that you push the button for, because that's a new thing from Amazon too. What's going to happen is you're going to hit that button, and then the missile silo is going to open up at the Amazon shipping center, and then the rocket's going to launch, and it's going to land in your yard. It's going to be great.
The Pentagon needs one of these for warheads,
Intercontinental ballistic tide. That's what I'm going to get.
Yep. Okay. So what do you get? I'm not sure what they're really going to be doing with the rocket company. I'm sure it says here in the article somewhere, but not enough for me to be like, oh, that's exactly what they're going to do with it. I don't know. Maybe they're going to help build colonies on other planets in the future. Carry humans and cargo, specifically science experiments, so into space. So I guess they want to carry some humans up there and do some science experiments. Sure. I think that's pretty cool. We need more companies flying around in outer space. All right, here's another purchase thing. We just talked about Google maybe buying Twitter. And this one, frankly, I don't know how. This is another one. I don't know how to feel about this. LinkedIn just purchased lynda.com. If you don't know what lynda.com is, well, you haven't learned anything recently, have you? Lynda.com is the biggest online learning platform. It's kind of like that How Village, or what's that village called? The How To Village or something, or whatever that stupid website is. It's no, God, not How To Basic. Let's shave a banana. Maybe you guys want to buy some razors. Ooh. I forgot the name of that. It's like a really good version of that, like a version of that doesn't suck. But you can learn anything on there, like literally anything on lynda.com. So now they're hooking it up with LinkedIn.com, and a lot of people are saying that they're like, oh, this is a perfect match and all that. And I don't know. I guess maybe it's a perfect match. You can go on LinkedIn.com and share all your accomplishments. Maybe your employers can see what you're learning, and then that would be interesting if they could go on there and be like, hey, listen, this person has completed all these Lynda courses. But then, of course, you'd have the smart people who just hire people to do all the Lynda courses for them so they show up on their profile. Maybe that's what will happen. But I don't know if
fairly large organizations that do fairly complex things with Adobe Acrobat. Not just print to PDF, but they actually do like collation on organization. And
they actually do acrobatics?
Yeah, acrobatics with Acrobat.
Yeah.
And it's fairly complicated document workflow and fairly complicated interactive forms and documents and things. Mm-hmm. And lynda.com has very good tutorials for that. And so I suspect that a lot of lynda.com's income comes from corporate training, because some of these larger companies have lynda.com accounts, and it's like, oh, you need training for Acrobat? Great. You need to go watch 8 hours of Acrobat training on your own time, mind you.
Right.
And use the company account to do the Acrobat training. So a lot of companies do that in lieu of actually having any kind of sane, onboarding process or whatever for new employees.
How about this? Okay, so you bring people on board, and then you sit them in a chair and you let them do Lynda, and you pay them to do that. How about this? Before they even hire people, like they're going to say, listen, your job prerequisite is that you have this entire 16-hour course completed And they'll be able to know by looking at your LinkedIn if you've done it or not. Maybe that'll be part of the requirement before they'll even do the interview. So then you'll have to be like, well, I got to fill out this form. I got to send them a urine sample. I got to freaking give them a freaking sample of my tonsils. And then I've got to send them my mother's maiden name. And I've got to do a 16-hour course just to be considered. And then they're going to be like, oh, well, we hired our nephew anyway. Sorry about that. Yeah, he's pretty good at websites, you know. What's it up with nephews and websites, man? Nephews should never be allowed to. If you're a nephew, no more doing websites. So I
know this kid in grade school. It's like, well, good luck with that.
Says he can do like a WordPress thing, WordPress.com, not org. Yeah, that's. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think the synergy is as crazy as people say it is. As far as like. God, I'm using business words now. We start talking about LinkedIn, I'm whipping out words like, good synergy here and all that crap stuff that you hear in business meetings. I'm not even wearing slacks right now, and I'm saying words like that. Yeah. Let's just move on. So, illegal downloading. Australian internet firms must supply data. This is scary, Wendell. I'm going to let you take this one since you sent it over, but... This is troubling that they must give over the data.
Yeah, so this news comes to us from Australia. It's very sad. And so it's just another situation where ISPs are being forced to retain and turn over subscriber data just based on an IP address. And so it's more stuff in the way of, an IP address, that's a person. You can't possibly have a situation where you have a wireless access point or this is a small business with a customer Wi-Fi access, or it was your neighbors or whatever. And so this is basically already happening in Australia. We talked about the same thing happening in Europe not long ago. And so here it is in Australia. Same deal.
Something really funny. This is on subject but off subject. We're always talking about sensationalism in journalism. This caption for the image here is like the least sensational thing ever. Thousands, not millions, or billions or trillions or whatever. Thousands of Australians have illegally downloaded the Dallas Buyers Club. It's like the least underwhelming. Oh, wow, thousands of people downloaded that thing. Yeah. Woo, big time.
And have they? I mean, do we really know? Because it could just as easily be a botnet.
Who wrote these freaking captions? This is great. Australians are some of the world's most enthusiastic illegal downloaders. I know, man, whenever I talk to my friends, I'm like, what are you doing? They're like, oh, I am so happy to be illegally downloading right now. I'm just so jazzed up and enthusiastic about this. It's going to be great. We're downloading some illegal songs that I've never heard. Something called the Dallas Buyers Club. I think I'm like the 1,500th person in the country to download that. It's going to be great. All right, do we have any other captions here? Oh, we're out of captions, man. Oh, that's why it's the BBC. Everything's understated and subdued over there. It's the BBC. I should have known. Yeah, they can't be sensational. They're like, yes, some things have happened, and this is what's done in retaliation, and then everyone exploded and go home and eat porridge. Good. Moving right along.
I don't think that's how that is at all. But okay.
It's very subdued, right? Right. I have no idea. I'm hyper. This coffee, what is in this? Coffee is in my coffee? I got some coffee from Cameroon. The Apple thing. This whole article. So, this nomadic rambler, he wrote a sort of an expose on what it was like to work at Apple. He quit the stress of being in a psychotic and corporate environment, and then he wrote it's way over the top. So, yeah, it sucks. It's awful. It's you're working with a ton of sociopaths who are forcing you to do all these arbitrary things just to see, if you'll jump. They're saying jump just to see if you'll jump, and they're doing, in the article they're doing things like, they reprimand everyone for showing up 1 minute late to meetings, and they have 50 meetings a day. And then one time the management decided not to show up to the meeting for a long time, and they decided to just sit outside and wait to see who would be the first to take initiative to call them and inform them that they were late. They did psychotic stuff like that, and he was talking about, I thought Apple was going to be a cool place to work, and it's just a freaking corporation. He said he's been a cop before, and he's held gun, he's been in gun battles, and that was stressful and all that, but it all goes. It's for me. This he just sounds like he wrote one big article about, hey, I worked for a major, ridiculous, crappy company. That's just the way corporations are. Am I wrong? They're all. When you get to that level and you have that kind of bureaucracy, and you're going to have some idiots working there, and they're going to have power trips, and it's yeah. When a company's that big, they're no longer nimble. It's just a mess. So I don't know. Every corporation that I've dealt with, that when they become that size, it does get a bit insane. You're going to be insane. You're going to have insane people working there, and as soon as they get into a place of power, they're going to allow their insanity to go insane. I don't know.
Well, the main takeaway of his thing was, Steve Jobs' advice was, don't be trapped by dogma, which is which is living with the results of other people's thinking. Don't let the noise of other people's opinions drown out your own inner voice. And so he's like, how can this not produce? How can this machinery that's in place here not produce exactly the opposite of that? And so that's why he left. But yeah, I mean, this is a pretty typical thing for Fortune 500 company. I mean,
well, okay, Steve Jobs used to say things like that all the time. But let me just go ahead and annotate this a little bit. So he said, don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice. And then in parentheses, it should have said, as long as it agrees with me. That's what it should have said. Better agree with my voice, because if you don't, you're in big trouble. And I'll call you names in a room full of people and throw a book across the room and tell you that you're an idiot and everything you've done ever sucks and get out of the room. That's what it should have said.
Or if you work, and the same thing's going on at Microsoft. It's like, except instead of throwing a book, they'll throw a chair at you.
Ballmer's gone. He finally balmed. That was awful. It hurt me. It hurt my head. FCC has fined AT&T $25 million for customer data thefts. And this is something that...
It's not just any theft. It's the most hilarious kind of theft.
So they had a bunch of... You go ahead. I'll let you jump in.
This is just... The only reason we mention this is just because when you hear this, you're just not even going to believe it. So AT&T has sold customer information. Surprises there. They sold your customer information to identity thieves, who then use the information to...
Well, here's the thing: is AT&T is like, it wasn't us who sold it; it was our employees in Mexico, Colombia, and the Philippines who had access to all this sensitive data that we gave them. Of course, we gave them their social security numbers, all this stuff, and credit card numbers. They had access to it all, but it was our employees. It has nothing to do with us, other than the fact that they were doing it on the clock while they were in your facilities.
Mm-hmm. AT&T says it is terminating vendor sites as appropriate, but what's the other thing is that they've also said that they haven't really they don't think anything bad has happened with this. So they're like, okay, they gave away your credit card numbers and maybe your social security numbers and your addresses and that sort of thing. They got all that. But, we don't have any reason to think that anything bad has happened or any abuses, have occurred because of this. So, it should be fine. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's probably all right.
I'll tell you one thing. They don't have a picture of your penis. So it's no big deal, right? Don't worry about it. Uh-oh. Do they? Oh, man, that's a good way to get everyone to storm AT&T's headquarters. They've got your junk right there. They're sitting there like this. Hey, look what we got. Let's move on then, shall we? I'm horrifying myself today. This is horrifying. So the Gogo thing, right? That's that's where someone's wearing scantily clad clothing comes and dances on your lap in the airplane. Yeah, Gogo in flight. That's what they call it. Why do they go with the name Gogo? Anyway, so they need to make sure that everyone has enough bandwidth. So what they've been doing is they have been spoofing the Google's DNS server. Yeah, and then they've also been blocking YouTube. How about that? And they can read your email. It's a ton of fun. But they're saying the only reason they're really doing this is to make sure that there's enough internet to go around. They need to be putting like 7 antennas on these damn planes or whatever, because if I'm paying $9 an hour for internet, I better get internet on the plane. And I want to watch YouTube videos. If I want to watch a monkey ride a cat while shooting a squirt gun on YouTube on the plane to entertain myself for this 7-hour flight, and you guys have moved the chairs back so that my knees are in my eyes. I better be able to watch a damn YouTube video if I'm paying $9 an hour. So anyway, so get some more antennas. That's how you ensure that everyone has fast enough service, not by, spoofing Google and the web portal. I'm not sure if I said DNS, but their web portal will pretend to be Google. So your computer just like, oh, this is cool. I'll trust this. This would be great. Yeah, we'll just trust this, and then they can snoop and everything. They're not doing it though.
It turns out they don't have to actually, impersonate Google in order to block YouTube. They can just
that's easy.
They could, there are standard tools for traffic shaping. It's like, hey, if you don't want people to stream video, then make their internet access bandwidth 128 kilobit or 256 kilobit or whatever that number.
You can pretty much do that kind of stuff with a Netgear router. I mean, just like with parental, you could even turn on parental controls. And I'm sure they have parental controls, but I mean, the same tools that they're using to block, ujunk.net or whatever. It's the same stuff they could use to block YouTube. I mean, they can make it happen.
One would think this is not really a huge, okay, if the bandwidth is limited on the plane, then, limit the bandwidth of, let somebody, have some burst bandwidth. It's like, oh, you get 1 megabit of burst, and then on sustained, it's 256 kilobit. You're not going to be enjoying video on that.
No. And if you do, it'll be at, 240p or something. And you know what? At 240p, not even.
I mean, maybe if it's like 3 frames a second.
So I'll have to pre-buffer all my monkeys riding cat videos.
Yeah. By the end of the flight, you could watch 15 seconds of footage.
Just having to sit there and buffer and buffer and buffer and buffer. That's what Pixel Dungeon's for, everybody. Get off the toilet and stop playing Pixel Dungeon right now. Everybody listening to me, stop playing Pixel Dungeon. You'll get hemorrhoids. All right, let's move on. I'm a bit weird today. Okay, how about this? Connecticut. They may as well go ahead and change their name to Connecticut because they are going to be having they're putting fiber everywhere. So where is it? This whole article is. I don't like this article. It's like I don't see any reason to bring the freaking Mark Twain into a story about gigabit, other than the fact that he wrote a book that had the name Connecticut in it. It's so fun. So anyway, where's the real meat of this article? Down here. So recently they said, hey, all the municipalities that want us to run fiber, and you know something interesting about Connecticut? Connecticut is already one of the states that is far ahead because they had set rules in place about how much a company could charge for access to poles and that sort of thing, whereas in other states, all the companies just have to bicker and argue and go back and forth, and it takes years of, well, can we touch this pole? No, you can't touch our pole. How about this? How about the conduit over here? Well, you can touch the conduit, but you can't touch any of our stuff in the conduit, and it's going to cost you this much. Connecticut already had all that stuff set up, so they're making it even easier. Now, thanks to Title II, this is the sort of result that we're going to see. Connecticut wants fiber to go to everybody, and they said, hey, all the municipalities, just let us know if you want us to do the fiber thing. So what they're going to do is they're going to put fiber everywhere, and I think it's about half the state already has responded, but they've extended the period of time which the states could petition, or the municipalities could petition to get fiber run. And then what they're going to do is they're going to allow different carriers to have access to the fiber that's in the ground. They basically likened it to roads. They are building the roads, and then they're going to let other people use them. And yeah.
Hey, where have we heard that roads analogy before? My favorite quote of the thing is, interest on the part of the Connecticut towns in participating was so strong that the deadline for jumping on board was extended. In the end, 46 municipalities representing more than half of the population of the state were part of the RFQ when it went out. And private parties jumped in turn to respond because Connecticut had those valuable regulatory assets on its side. See? The FCC doing away with the state level and local level franchise agreements is really good because now hopefully in Connecticut there's going to be fiber.
I sent the article to Pistol, and her first response was like, "Oh my God, they're doing something good in Connecticut." I was like, "Come on." It's so weird being in New England. Like Connecticut, everyone talks about Connecticut as if they were some sort of appendage of New York. It's really hilarious. The elitism is real. It is real, but yeah,
that's why this kind of thing could fly under the radar because there's not really any established companies entrenched there because that's the backwater place of New England, I guess.
I don't know. Connecticut's weird. Connecticut has one of the it has a lower class, but it also has a hell of an upper class. Whereas some of the other states have a big middle class. So I think that it's more like New York in that way. You know what I mean? And they're also not as used to driving in snow, so the elitism carries over there as well. Where they're like, whenever there's a wreck in the snow, people drive by and they're like, let's see if the plates are Connecticut or if they're New York. It's weird. I don't know. It's really weird. I've noticed that since I've been up here. And they have a term for almost anyone from. It's weird. Flatlanders and all these other terms and stuff. I don't know. I think it's kind of funny, but maybe unnecessary. Everyone in Connecticut is awful. That's everyone's like, geez, man, oh my God. Everyone in Connecticut just fell on the floor. All the people in Connecticut. No, Connecticut has some good cities, and it also something like this is going to attract tons of businesses. Tech-savvy businesses are going to be flocking there. Could be cool. Yeah. All right. What's next? Microsoft. They're making a stripped-down version of Windows to rival Linux because Linux is the operating system of the server room. That's mainly what it is. I mean, Linux is extremely modular, and Microsoft, they want to, with their new version, they want to give it container-like technology to really rival the stuff that Linux has been doing so well. I don't know, too little, too late, or do you think that Microsoft could flex their muscles and get in there and get some people to uninstall CoreOS and CentOS and stuff like that? I don't know. What do you think, Wendell?
Well, so Windows Server has had a command line only install forever, but even the command line only install, the footprint of that is fairly significant. And so what Microsoft's talking about here is even stripping that down even further. And I suspect, although it doesn't say in the article, that the real claim to fame here is that they're going to do the containers in such a way that the host operating systems, utilities like PowerShell and all that kind of thing, are the executables that you'll actually run for manipulating stuff inside the container. So it'll be a little different than Linux, where with the container you can SSH into the container, or you can run a process on the container, and then it's basically a full operating system inside the container. I think with what Microsoft is going to do, it's going to be like that, except instead of having all of the commands and the executables inside the container, they're going to go even more lighter weight and just have that sort of on the outside. That's planned for Docker on Linux, which is really what this is meant to rival. With the overlay file systems, like with clever use of the overlay file system, the stuff that lives inside the container is really just the stuff that's specific for that container, which is neat. But
the
I
other
don't know if
interesting
Microsoft's going to be able to pull this off.
It's also interesting that they're going to be using the Hyper-V virtualization technology to wrap the containers so that that's probably going to make it stable. If one thing goes down, it's not going to take down everything. That one container can just be reset or restarted or whatever. That's kind of interesting.
I think that that's going to be one of the. I think that they're going to say that it was that all along, but this is one of the things that's going to require significant engineering. The reason that containers are so amazing on Linux is because it's all running from the same kernel, and so instead of having 27 different versions, well, at least in some implementations, instead of having 27 different versions of the Linux kernel running, it's one Linux kernel, and it's just managing basically partitions. So there's really practically no overhead. If Microsoft is using full Hyper-V virtual machines or Hyper-V functionality to have something that's more like a virtual machine and less like a container, then each of these containers is going to have significantly more overhead than it would if it was just sort of a pair of virtualization and some hooks in the kernel. I think that maybe version 1.0 is not going to be para virtualization. We don't actually know. This is just speculation. But when they get to the para virtualization version that's not like a full virtual machine, it's just kernel level virtualization, then it may be something that's really cool, because then you're talking about cramming hundreds of those things on the bare metal. But until they do that, it's container technology and the kinds of things that are available at the kernel level without actually even doing full virtualization is sort of, well, I can give you an example. So you can have a Linux KVM virtual machine that has a gazillion Docker containers inside it. And so in the data center, this is really nice. It's granular access. So you've got your bare metal machine, and you've got, and you've allocated 8 or 16 gigabytes of RAM or something crazy. And then inside that virtual machine, you have umpteen dozen Docker containers or whatever that are running on that KVM virtual machine. So it's like you have the containers within a virtual machine, which is, it turns out it's a really elegant way.
It's a very
to
Yo-Dog
manage your
situation.
workflow. Yeah. So it's not exactly virtual machines, because you don't really want a virtual machine inside a virtual machine. That's crazy. But the containers are a convenient way of managing the applications that you're running. So.
All right, let's check out what's going on in China. We'll be doing that pretty soon, sooner than you think, sooner than I think. Oh man. All right, so the Chinese government just approved for 400,000 elementary schools to get 3D printers. That's really, really freaking cool. So 400,000 3D printers. Even if they're like the cheapest 3D printer on the planet. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about the type of 3D printer this is here. I don't know. But it looks like it's a Lenovo company, Magic Factory. But anyway, even if they're like the cheapest, the thing that they're going to do is they're going to get kids thinking in that way. They're going to get kids creating, and they're going to prepare them for a very interesting future of making products. So, or just creating ideas. It's very good to get kids thinking in that way. Creativity is important, man.
I think that the thing with this is that it exposes kids to the practical aspects of all of the science and technology that goes into 3D printing. Because with 3D printing, you could potentially get exposure to 3D modeling, mechanical engineering, like the mechanical aspect of it, software design. There are programs like OpenSCAD where you can basically write a program that will produce a part. So you can programmatically create a gear, or programmatically create text, or programmatically do whatever and then print it out. There's so much learning that you can have around that entire technology, and this generation of tinkerers and makers will really come up with some innovative stuff. And so this is China investing in its future, and we really probably ought to be doing this ourselves.
Everyone in the U.S. and other governments, get on it. All right. Oh yes, asynchronous shaders. We talked about this briefly, but AMD has given us some details. I guess we talked, was it last week or whatever? So the whole thing about asynchronous shaders is that the graphics cards can do these things. They have the ability to look at all the tasks coming in and then assign them in ways that speed things up. Whereas the problem they have now is the API. It's just terrible for asynchronous shaders. It's terrible for multi-threaded operations. But in DirectX 12, some of the older cards may be getting a little bit faster. And that's both on the AMD and on the NVIDIA side. It seems like a lot of people have been mentioning that AMD is going to benefit from this a lot. They may end up being the biggest... I guess getting the biggest benefit. But, NVIDIA is going to benefit as well. Anyway, is there anything you really want to highlight? I guess it's a pretty big article, and if you guys really wanted to get into it, you can go and see the specifics on how this works. And it's an interesting read, and it shows how things are going to be slightly different with the new API. But anything you want to highlight before we move on?
This is definitely well worth a read, and gives you an idea about the types of architectural changes necessary when we're talking about multiple GPU cores and multiple CPU cores basically working completely independently with very little synchronization overhead for all the different things working in parallel. And that is how we're going to have photorealistic 8K gaming sometime in the next 5 years.
I'll be looking forward to that with the Vulkan API as well. So that's going to have... that's pretty much going to have everything that Mantle had, plus a few other things, and Valve's going to help out with that. And yeah, I've been gaming a lot. Actually, this week I've been gaming exclusively on Linux, and it's been a really nice experience. Like minimizing a game and then coming back to it later is like the most seamless and smooth thing ever. It's like when you minimize a game in Windows, a lot of times, unless you're running in window mode, a lot of times it's just like, is this going to crash? So, I don't know. It's been really a nice experience. Anyway, I'll leave Linux alone for now. We'll talk about the 390X. Here's a photo of the 390X, the XFX. That is really gold and gaudy. That looks like this can't be real. Look at those gold outlines around the fans right there. That looks like it belongs on like some sort of a souped up SUV or something. So yeah, this card has got fancy.
This is the Deus Ex edition.
Oh, is it? Yeah. It's all right. But anyway, that's the picture of it. If you guys want to see what it looks like,
It might
I
also
would
be
love
fake.
to get my hands on one of those. Could be. That's really. I thought it was going to be 2.5 slots in order to keep that thing cool, but there it is. All right, there's some specs. We talked about that before. All right, this is a cool article right here. So the Intel Core M, Wendell, it's the same part, 2 different laptops, right? They should be the same speed, right? Should be.
One would think.
Yeah, one would think. So go ahead. I'll let you jump in and tell them.
It turns out that that's not actually the case. And so if you have 2 laptops, both with the 5Y71, for example, that's the Core M CPU, the performance difference may be completely different. And that's because it's up to the OEM, 1, how they deal with the heat, and 2, what the thermal profile is, or the the envelope heat, or the heat soak, or whatever you want to call it, for how the heat is dealt with. And so it is entirely possible that you could have a 5Y10, one of the lowest end Core M CPUs that they talk about in the article, that outperforms a 5Y71. So that we're talking about a 0.8 gigahertz to 2 gigahertz, that's the CPU base clock to boost clock, versus a 1.2 to 2.9 gigahertz, base clock to boost clock CPU. And the lower end CPU could outperform the higher end CPU if the OEM for the lower end CPU has done a good job dealing with heat dissipation, whereas the vendor that's not done as good a job with heat dissipation at the higher end part will never be able to run at the higher end speeds for sustained periods of time. And so they talk about that, actually, some of the different, and why they're sort of seeing, it's like, well, we tested this laptop and that laptop and they have the same CPU, but the performance on this one was completely different. And it's because that one, the CPU stayed slower longer because it just couldn't dissipate the heat. They talk about the new MacBook and how the new MacBook, because it's sealed and so small, it is very likely going to have these same sorts of problems where it can't turbo for long periods of time. And so they've sort of broken their benchmarks into short turbo, short, medium, and long is sustained. And even outside the Core M, these are the kinds of things that we ran into with the Surface Pro 3. So the Surface Pro 3 has an ultra low voltage part in it, and it has a fan, but its design, it's very thin. It was one of the thinnest devices at the time, even though it's not Core M. And so if you're playing a game and charging the battery and doing a whole bunch of other things, it can't dissipate the heat, and so it's going to downclock until it's able to deal with the heat. And then there were some people that were still having it overheat even after that, and then so it comes up and you get this little thermometer thing because it just shuts itself down. And so it's the same situation with Core M, but the situation is a lot worse with Core M because Core M can be completely passively cool, 3.5 watts potentially. And so the performance for Core M parts is all over the place, and looking at the CPU model numbers, not enough.
Shall we go talk about some science?
It's time for science.
I believe it is time for science. Got a couple quick mentions here. So the solar is about to become economically affordable. Solar plus battery, that is. In the next few years, they say 10 to 15 years in most places, but in the next few years, people are going to find that it is economical, and it's actually the best economic thing to do would be to get solar instead of continuing with the standard forms of heating and power and that sort of thing. So that's cool. I don't think I really want to get into the details here. I just always like to say yay solar whenever I get a chance. As soon as we build a place, it's going to have solar panels. That's just the rules. And maybe even a solar farm on top of the canopy of the trees. I'm sure someone would get angry about that. Probably me. I'm a tree hugger. Damn it. I'm mad at myself.
No.
Rat's cerebral cortex is set up like the internet. That one's a lot to get into. I want to jump over to this article because we don't have too much more time. The wolf is starving right now. So a man in Russia has volunteered to be the first patient to undergo a head transplant. So some people are trying to get a head in life. He's trying to get a body in life. It's a little different. Oh, God, that was so bad. I'll punish myself later, like they do in some religions. I don't know. So, yeah, this is interesting here. So they've done this with monkeys, but the monkeys don't stay alive very long. The monkeys are like, oh, who was the? Oh, I'm dead. That's pretty much. Well, they can't even really move around that much. They haven't been able to fuse.
They didn't even
spinal
bother
column.
trying to read. Yeah, so it's just a head. That's all. That's all you get.
well, the doctor here who's involved, Dr. Vladimir or something, I don't know, surgeon Sergio Canavero. That sounds, is that a Russian name? I guess Sergio? I don't know. Sergio, that's like Spanish. Whatever. So here's how he says that it can be done. Let me just open this up. Polyethylene glycol. That's all it really took. It said that he can reattach the spinal cord using a substance called polyethylene glycol. Well, I wish we would have known that before. I wish this article would have gone into a little more detail, because that doesn't satisfy my curiosity at all. Like, how are they going to do it? Duct tape.
It was also
Oh, of course, duct tape. I thought
he was also quoted as saying, "This totally is not going to be anything like the island of Dr. Moreau, I promise."
I know what I want. I want to. If this works, I want my head on the body of a horse. Because I'm tired of it. I mean, we should all do it. Cars are really just, they pollute a lot. But if you take a horse everywhere, then you got to leave it somewhere. But if you are the horse, you can just go into the meeting and be like, "How's it going, guys? Sorry I was late. I'm a horse."
Fairly certain that our new Logan the Centaur t-shirt will be making its way to the store in a matter of months.
Oh, God. I really do think there's something weird in this coffee. It's making me say strange things. You know? Like, yeah. It's delicious. All right. What's next? Liquid body armor. I wouldn't trust it. I wouldn't trust it as far as I could throw a piano. But liquid body armor is going to be a thing soon. So this is the Moratex Institute of Security Technology, and they've promised, this is in Poland, right? And they promised some weird things in Poland over there, I guess. That it's a thickening fluid, I guess, is when it impacts. I guess they've been working on this kind of stuff for a while, but I'm not exactly. It's anti-ballistic, but I'm not sure what the limits are. You know what I mean? Like, is it going to stop a machine gun round, or is it going to stop, like a bazooka round? I mean, I don't know.
I'll be really curious to see. Hopefully it's some sort of like non-Newtonian fluid, because non-Newtonian fluids like cornstarch are a lot of fun to play with.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, this is another really short article, so I'm like grabbing for things here, but I don't know.
I think it's a repost from CNET.
It might be. I don't even know where it came from. Where's the source? CNET. What do you know? Source CNET. It's cool to mention. All right, so here's an interesting article on Extreme Tech. Just an opinion piece, but relying upon game servers is ruining video games, and I think he's onto something here. I generally don't like to play games if they rely upon a connection to the server, and it's also extremely odd to me that single-player games will do this. And we've seen this a lot of times where a single-player game will come out, and in order for you to play, it's got to phone home, and then let's say you're trying to phone home, and there's nobody on the other line, or there's not even a phone number, so that's what they're doing. They're turning off the servers and people can't play. But it's also happening with multiplayer games and that sort of thing. And the strange thing here is there's another thing. The EFF is involved in this. I didn't even bring this article up, but the EFF got involved because it's apparently illegal to hack your games to remove these limitations, because hacking will lead to piracy, of course. And the EFS is like, so you're telling me that these old games, if people want to if they want to hack the game and remove the reliance upon the server, they can't do it? And of course, they're like, absolutely not. It's illegal. Go to prison forever. Hit you in the head with the brick. So we'll have to. That's a separate article. Like I said, I didn't bring that one up, but also kind of troublesome. But yeah. I don't know.
We'd like to play obsolete games, because the Internet Archive has an archive now of DOS games and a whole bunch of other things. And, technically circumventing the copyright protection on those, that's illegal. Even though those games are abandoned, they're from defunct companies. Arguably, they should be in the public domain. Should it be a crime that if you have something that enjoyed copyright protection, if it is prevented from entering the public domain through destruction or abandonment, is that a crime? Because it should be a crime.
It could be a crime. It should be, yeah. Oh, well. Well, we have another big announcement here. Deus Ex Mankind Divided has been announced. Looks pretty cool. There's really no information. I guess the trailer, if you go through and analyze the trailer, you can see some of the augmentations and that sort of thing. I wasn't too wild about Human Revolution. It was a great game, but it was no like the expectations. You can't live up to Deus Ex 1. You cannot do it. But I think it could have been really good, and I think this one could be really good. And I'm going to ask the developers to do something that they may or may not do. And I would like for you guys. The cover system is kind of cool. It allows you to, take cover on the wall. But the problem is when you go into when you take cover on a wall, it pulls back in a third person, and then you can like shift the camera around, and you can see things that your character should not be able to see. And for me, that broke the immersion. And I know the argument is like you just don't use it. Well, I wouldn't mind using the cover system. And also, some of the events in that game were reliant upon the cover system, meaning that there were so many things happening around the corner that if you didn't know exactly what was going on, it would take you hours and hours of trial and error to try to beat certain parts of the game. So the reason that it bothers me is the original game. The best moments in the original game, I would be hiding behind a wall, and there would be one of those giant robots, I forgot what they're called, but they'd be moving around, and it shakes the floor, and they have this kind of weird, sound, and you're like, and I know that they're on the other side of the wall, and I need to sneak by, but I don't know if they're facing that way, if they're facing that way. And the only way for me to figure it out is to stick my head around the corner and look. And the suspense there, for me, like sticking my head around the corner, and then I'd look over and there'd be one of those giant robots with its turrets, and it would be looking right at me, and I'd be like, oh, damn it, no! Oh, run, run, run! I didn't get that at all in the new games. There was that suspense was not there for me. It was a fun game with an interesting story and some cool devices, but it was nothing like the original. And also the sloppy AI kind of made the original special, even though it shouldn't have made the original. Just something fun about that. He was here just a minute ago, a guy in a big trench coat. Well, must be rats. I don't know. That was kind of funny. It's not realistic, but it's fun. So yeah, that's my mild rant on why I really prefer the original, and the story of the original as well was really.
I really think that. I really like the way that the bad guys reacted in the first Batman game, where if you were like Super Batman skulking around in the shadows and you were taking out the bad guys one at a time, whenever like one of the ones like knew something happened, and then they would be real nervous, and it's like I don't know what's going on. They would just like freak out. That was a lot of fun because they would just run around being insane, and then they were being even more insane than usual. And they could have totally done something like that in Deus Ex, and it would have been a lot better. It's like somebody's just running around, and then you can just, dart out from behind a corner because they're like looking behind them as they run, and just, clothesline them, and then they're done.
Yeah. Well, maybe we should make a game. I think we will. Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's make a game. Side scroller or 3D? I don't know.
I don't know.
The Unity 2D is pretty easy to work with, but Unreal Engine 4 is really easy to work with too.
We can do all the things.
Yeah, we should do all the things. I'll hire somebody and then I'll help them along the way because I've got so many things to do. It's pretty much the end of the show right now, but what's been eating up all of my time? Okay, I've been spending a little bit of time, dealing with the logistics of moving out to Seattle, but that's not taking up all my time. Linux, I get bent. It's terrible. I've been up to like 3 a.m. the last couple nights in a row doing things on Linux because, let's see, Windows is not an awful operating system. Everyone, they're all, like Kane was saying, they're all awful depending on how you use them. Just like they can all be okay depending on what you want out of them. If you want everything to, if you hate options and you just want things to do a certain thing, go ahead and get a MacBook and do your thing. You won't have any options. If you want a few options, but you want, access to everything, go ahead and get Windows. But with Linux, it's anything. There's so many options. That's the problem. It's just it's your own operating system, and if you haven't used Linux yet, prepare yourself for a few nights where you're up really late, making it your Linux. So that's where I've been lately, and I'm like, oh, it's 4 a.m. and I was supposed to be working, but then I started trying to tweak one or two little things like, the style of the window tiles and the way that things open up, and running Python scripts to get things to do things. And I even got I'm using Wine, but I even got a Python script that basically skins my wine so that it matches my GNOME whatever, GNOME 3. I forgot what it is, 1.4 I think, my GNOME 3.14 theme. So just I've gone all out. It never stops. And then you wake up the next morning, you're like, I wonder if I could do these things. And of course you can. You can do anything you want. If it's not out there, you can write your own program to do it. The only thing I haven't really been able to do is get down to business with some video editing, but that's like another bear of a project, is to get really involved with one of the video editing programs. So I'll probably wait till I move to do that, because I know that'll eat up a lot of time. Anyway, that's where a ton of my time has been. You guys are yelling for videos. We've made some videos, just haven't edited them. Maybe I'll make a video about all this Linux insanity of keeping me up at night and stuff. So, you got any fun projects this week?
Yeah, I've got the RAID Part 2. I've got the video on the Moto 360. I've got the video on how to read the Windows event log and how to debug the blue screen crashes, the mini dump files from a Windows blue screen crash. Also got a review coming up of 2 cases, an Antex case and a Fantex case, and a review of Ergotron monitor arms. So, going to be interesting.
Mm-hmm. And if you guys do want to know about the projects we have going on here, we have those going on here. And then the other thing, I'm trying to get myself involved in some... No, it's a secret. It's a secret. I can't, because I don't want everyone else's... If I tell people, everyone else will steal the ideas.
We've also got the rest of the ESR stuff coming up, so that's going to be neat. And PenguinCon coming up at the end of the month.
Ooh. You're taking cameras, right?
Yep.
That's right during my move, or else I would have gone.
Yep.
I really want to go to PenguinCon.
It's going to be fun.
I know. Maybe I can.
It's only on the weekend, so I mean, it's only 2 days. It's not a huge commitment.
What is it? Missouri or something? Got like
no, it's in
my
Michigan.
Drive, Michigan. Something. Yep. Oh, I could probably drive through Michigan on the way there and stop for a little while.
I think I plotted it. It's only like 6 or 7 hours for you.
Yeah, I'll have the dog with me. I mean, the wolf.
Oh. That'll be interesting.
Yeah, well, I'll just turn it loose on everyone. You know, she goes for the neck area, so it's a quick death. All right, everybody. We'll see you in the comments. Thanks, everybody, for making the store an awesome place. Keep telling us what you guys want in there. We do have some really cool audio gear coming up pretty soon that we're going to be working on we're working with Tyler on a few products, and those will be probably in his store, but you guys will see what we're working on pretty soon. Some fun stuff. So yeah.
Thanks, tech support, folks.
You guys are awesome. All right, we'll see you guys later.